Welcome to Albuquerque Real Estate Talk, episode 520, January 25th, 2025. I've had an exciting week, Tracy, and I'm really looking forward to talking about everything I've had going on this week. It's been fun, but it's Tego and Tracy Venturi with the Venturi Group of Real Broker here in Albuquerque, talking about real estate like we always do 520 times. And this week, we're going to talk about how buyers buy homes. And that's been a very hot story this week. We'll get into that. And something came up, Tracy, questions about appraisal. So we're going to talk about common questions that buyers and sellers have about the appraisal process. And you have a neighborhood or a community of the week for us
I
that's a
do.
surprise for me.
Yep, I do. So we'll get into that. I love to talk about some of my favorite neighborhoods around the city. And I also want to talk about some of that junk mail that we got that you don't have on the agenda.
Okay, perfect. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. Thank you for bringing it. It's again, Tego, Tracy Venturi, Venturi Realty Group. We're in a little bit different space than we've used in the past. So if you've used to seeing it on YouTube, we're in a little bit different room than we've used in the past. And you can reach us at 505-448-8888 or welcome home, abq.com.
So Tego, your exciting news.
Well,
I know it's kind of out there everywhere in the community now because you stirred the pot.
oh boy, did I stir the pot this week.
Yeah.
So
So tell us.
All right. So last week when we did our show, I had published a chart that showed, how many homes sold and by what. So I'm going to pull this up on the website or on the stream here if you're looking on video. But what I did is I shared, okay, how do people purchase homes? And so what we found is in 2024, about 14.5% of the homes that sold were cash sales, and about 60% were conventional loan, and then another like 14% were FHA and so on. So it was, it was kind of matter of fact, it's pretty common. These are normal things. So I published this, or I posted on my Facebook Saturday morning.
Right.
And immediately another realtor sends me this story and says, well, what about this? And so I read it. So realtor.com, go ahead and pull up that one, Sam. Realtor.com published this story, and it ran Saturday, and it said the headline was "Cash is King." What Southwest market was the leader in cash sales in October 2024, and it went on to say that in Albuquerque, 71% of the homes that sold in October 2024 were purchased by cash. And then it goes on to say, well, it's investors and this and that, and they just jump to this conclusion that there's all these investors buying in Albuquerque. First off, they got the data totally wrong. I mean, like, I don't know. Tracy, I've been going up and down and back and forth trying to figure out how realtor.com came up with this data, because it's just not true.
Yeah, I don't understand it. And as I understand though, you've been trying to get a hold of realtor.com to be a resource and try to help them clarify.
I have,
And
no luck.
no response.
I got a response that was, we'll look at it, basically. And it wasn't any, and I've tried to reach out to everybody I could.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to clarify, realtor.com is a website that is branded to a company called Move Inc. by the National Association of Realtors. So realtor.com is not really associated with the National Association. It used to be, but then realtor.com was sold to Move Inc., which is the company that runs that website.
So Tego, this isn't the first time lately that you've found that maybe their data is not exactly accurate.
I don't know what's going on over there, but it's almost like I had this whole thing like, do they have something out for Albuquerque or something? Because at the end of last year, remember, they published their, forecast for the top 100 markets in the country.
Right.
And of the top 100 markets, they ranked Albuquerque as dead last for appreciation in 2025.
And wasn't Albuquerque like one of the only cities of the top 100 cities in the country that they were expecting negative price appreciation?
Exactly.
Was the only one.
The only one.
The only one. Every other top 100 city was expected to have increases in prices throughout this year.
Correct.
Right.
Which just that on its surface, just saying that Albuquerque would be the only one. It's just that something doesn't make sense. I don't know where they're getting their data on Albuquerque housing market, but, uh
It's wrong. So, Tigo, this really harms consumers. They see these stories and they think, well, I can't compete with cash if 3 out of 4 houses in our market are selling with cash. I'm not even going to try to buy a house.
exactly,
Yeah.
and
And the national or the local association, Greater Albuquerque Association of Realtors, put out something today, didn't they, talking about this?
well, yeah, on
Okay.
Wednesday, yeah. So they put out a press release because I've been kinda hammering our local association, which is GAR, Greater Albuquerque Association, or not hammering them, but I've got a good relationship with, Laura, who's the media director down there, and I'm like, "This isn't right." I talked to the current president of the association, said, "Man, we gotta do something about this because it's just paints a bad picture." But long story short, there was a press release saying that the association, backs up my findings, which in October 2024, it was about 14.4% of the homes that sold were cash.
Cash.
So I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see how this all turns out, but it's just you know how I am about my accurate market data and how frustrated I get when I see bad data. This one's definitely triggered me big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So
Don't I know it?
yeah.
Okay. So, moving on.
Yeah, so just get back to that. If we go to that screen there that says cash Sam, and that one, what I did is like, okay, where did they come up with
Mm.
this 71% number? I thought maybe they were looking at land sales, vacant land sales. So I pulled the data, and in 2024 there were 1,523 vacant land sales in the greater Albuquerque area. To put that in perspective, the homes were about 9,700, something like that.
I
Uh,
would guess, I can't see what the chart says, but I would guess a lot of the land sales were cash.
yeah, yeah, no, they were. And so of that 1,523, 1,222 were cash. So about 80%. So that's not our 71% that we're looking for. So still, I thought
Although
maybe
that was just 1 month, it was
no,
October.
yeah, that
You're
was
looking
October.
at a full year.
Well, I looked at October and it's basically the same. It's
Yeah, okay.
80%. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course I did. But then if we look at, the other thing which is interesting, like here, seller finance for vacant land was about 13%, which is no surprise.
No surprise. A lot of times if it's a buildable lot, the person that's buying it wants to build a house and they'd like some time to put their house plan together, get the financing in place so they can do a construction loan. And so buying it using owner financing at first is a more affordable and easier way to get that process going.
Yeah, and with vacant land, there just aren't the loan programs, right, Tracy? If you've got
There
I mean,
are,
there's some, but it's not the same.
well, if it's unimproved land, very hard to get a loan on because
Unimproved meaning what?
no utilities and no utilities near to make it buildable.
Yeah,
So
you can't get a loan. So,
it's
yeah. So anyway, that was I just pulled that out to try to figure out where their numbers coming from. And still don't know, but it was interesting that cash sales. One other thing, there was a stat in there that there were some land that there was a trade. So there was an exchange involved. So they actually traded the land for something else, but there were only a few of them. I think it was only two is what it showed. However, I bet a lot of those cash sales and probably even a higher portion of those ones that were seller financing or real estate contract had a trade involved a little bit as well. Maybe
I
not 100%, but a portion of it.
right. I bet there's also plenty that didn't go through the multiple listing service when you look at land sales
Yeah, I think that's fair to
more
say
than
too.
homes.
True, true.
Okay, so Tigo, we've got to talk about something fun and light. I know that was the best fun for you, but we have a house or two on the market having open houses this weekend.
Yep.
So Bar Lane Northwest, it's near just north of Montano and west of 4th Street. And first viewing on that will be Saturday and Sunday open houses from 1 to 3. And it's a really renovated, updated home that looks gorgeous when I looked at the photos. It's 385,000. It's a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 1 car garage. So it'll be open on Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 3. So jump on our website. It'll show the location, the hours, and how to get there and everything on Bar Lane Northwest in the North Valley. We also have an open house in Corrales on Saturday. And it's a house that we put on the market. It went under contract like the same day, right?
Lots of demand. Yeah.
Lots of demand, came back on the market this week, and it will be open this weekend. There's two buildings, a home and a studio on this 1 acre. And what's beautiful about it is it's right in central downtown
Downtown,
Corrales.
downtown
Downtown
Corrales.
Corrales. It's walking distance to Hannah and Nate's, and a bike ride, you would say, to Ex Novo. I would say a walk to Ex
It's a
Novo.
long walk to Ex
It's
Novo,
it's
but you could,
really right across from Parea's New Mexican
yeah,
restaurant.
yeah.
So it's right there. So that one is priced at 995,000, and it's an amazing 2-bedroom, very high quality adobe plus the 20 almost 2600 square foot studio of high quality beautiful building. So if that sounds like something you need, get out there or give us a call if you can't make it to the open house. We'd be happy to schedule a time for you to view that.
Cool. Good. Good.
Yeah.
So Tracy, question that comes up a lot is appraisals and the appraisal process. What is an appraisal? Why do you need it? Does it decide what the home is worth? All those kind of questions. So let's break this down. What is an appraisal?
So, an appraisal is an opinion of the home's value. And oftentimes, an appraisal is done for a third party, like for a lender who does not live here. It's an entity somewhere. And they're relying on an appraiser to give them a value to make sure that if they make a loan on it, that they're making a good loan.
Yeah. So does an appraisal decide what the home is worth?
Well, buyers and sellers, buyers decide what a home is worth, right? I know that smirk, Tigo.
Yeah,
It's
of
setting
course
me
I
up there.
yeah, well, it's that whole it's the lawyer thing. Don't answer a question if you don't know the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. And, people don't have to get an appraisal in every situation when you're buying real estate. If you're doing cash, you can choose not to get an appraisal or choose to get one. And if you're doing a loan, very often an appraisal is required, but sometimes there is an appraisal waiver where they can see from the algorithm and how much money you're putting down that they're not concerned and they can waive that the appraisal is required.
One of the confusions I hear sometimes is when a lender is working with a buyer, they will say the appraisal inspection. And that can create confusion because, yes, it's an appraisal inspection, meaning the appraiser goes to the house,
Not always,
not always, but
but usually.
most of the time. And, they verify the size of the house, they do measure it, and then they verify, that things work, that it's a livable property. So if you're getting a loan on it, especially if FHA, VA, most conventional, it has to be a livable property. You have to be able to move in as is. And so the appraiser is the third party that's verifying that it has a stove, that it has a furnace, that it has hot water, it has running water, all that stuff, right?
Right.
And that's when they say inspections, that's what they're doing, which is very different than a full home inspection.
Right. For sure. And I don't really know, Tigo, if they really turn on a stove. They're looking to make sure there's a stove there, right?
That's a fair point.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't know that they verify that anything works, but that would be a good question. So if you're an appraiser or know it, let us know. So Tigo, one of the things that I have found to be really common is the public doesn't realize that when there's an appraisal, the actual purchase agreement is given to the appraiser. It's not a shot in the dark for them to hit what that house might be worth. They're
So
just justifying the sales price.
so let's break that down. So I'm a buyer and you're selling a house. I come to you and say, I'm going to pay you $400,000 for this house. And you say, great, we have a deal. Now we have a contract between me as the buyer and you as the seller, right? And now that contract goes over to the lender because I'm getting a loan, right? And then that contract, which shows what we've agreed to,
Gets
goes to the
assigned to
lender,
an appraiser.
gets assigned to an appraiser, and the appraiser actually gets that and says, "That's what, I've decided the home is worth as a buyer," right? So what they're trying to do is verify what I, as a buyer, have decided the home is worth, right?
Right, right. And the next question is what happens if the house appraises low or high and doesn't appraise for exact purchase price?
Well, and we saw a lot of that back in, 21, 22, where people were bidding above list price and bidding it up because demand was so high and supply was so low. And that did create some challenges with appraisers.
So in our regular state purchase agreement, they talk about what are the remedies if the appraisal doesn't come in at appraised, the purchase
Well,
price.
let's start with this. If the appraisal comes in low, what is that? So let's say okay, it was 400. Appraiser comes back and says, you know what, it's really 390. That's it. What happens?
So there's a couple options according to the purchase agreement, right? The seller can sell for the price the appraisal comes in at. The buyer can pay the price they agreed to pay, or they can meet somewhere in the middle, or the purchase can fall apart if they can't come to one of those three agreements.
Yeah, got it. What if
Yeah.
it comes in higher than let's say, okay, so I'm under contract at 400. We get the appraisal back and it says it's worth 410,000.
Congratulations to you, first of all. And typically what happens is you still pay 400, unless when you made the offer, you were competing and you said if it came in higher, that you would pay more.
Yeah,
But
an escalation clause is what you're saying, is what we call it, right?
basically, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that's a simplified way to say it, but yeah, basically that's it.
The other question that comes up is, do I get a copy of the appraisal? And so for the buyer, yes, and that's federally mandated, as I assume, or the lending laws require that you're given a copy of your appraisal as the buyer. But as far as the seller, even if the seller paid for the appraisal, they're not entitled to a copy
Yeah, because the appraisal is
for the buyer.
for the buyer, for the benefit of the buyer, and for the benefit of the lending institution, right?
Yeah.
And that can be frustrating for sellers, for
That's
sure.
what I
Oh
was
yeah,
going to say. Sellers are frustrated. They want a copy of it. They want to see what the appraiser said about their house.
yeah.
And if let's say it comes in low and the seller's not happy, can they ask that the appraisal get relooked at? Can they ask to have it reviewed?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a long process through the lender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just one last thing, appraisers are licensed to do appraisals. There's an appraisal association, there's an appraisal licensing entity, and they have very specific and strict guidelines on how to determine value.
They
Especially
do.
since 2010, whenever Dodd-Frank was, which, after the great financial crisis, things really tightened up in that. And they have very specific guidelines they must follow when doing that appraisal. And the only time you can challenge it is if they really get out of those guidelines.
Or if they make an omitted mistake in math or something.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah,
true. Yeah, and
which
that
we
does
had that
happen.
happen once.
And we've had square footage measurements come in wrong too. I mean, it's just a mistake. They just measured something wrong and either too big or too small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's appraisals. The appraiser has gone through a lot of training to become an appraiser, and they have an apprenticeship. It's not easy to become an appraiser, and we need more of them, and we need, the next generation to become
Well,
appraisers.
that's kind of one of those inside real estate things. If you're not in this business all the time, you don't know that. But yes, there is a shortage of appraisers, especially, back during the wild days of 2021, 22. There was
It was hard.
it was a backlog because there wasn't enough appraisers. So yeah,
So do you think AI is going to replace appraisals anytime?
there's definitely some technology coming in. Like you said, there's a thing called an appraisal waiver. When the lender puts that property in to an underwriter, right? The underwriting system can look at it and I don't know how to say this nicely, but if the home is a very cookie cutter home in a very established neighborhood and there's a lot of, very similar properties to back it up and there's a lot of data about it, the underwriting system might just come back and say, you know what, we've got enough information. We don't need to actually have a home inspection appraiser, have an appraiser go out to the property. But there has been a lot of talk about that over the years where we call them AVMs, automated valuation models, where in the Zestimate is the classic example of that, where it's just an algorithm that can look at the entire market and figure out, get a close idea of what the value of a property may be. So yeah, those
So
are going to get
maybe
more and more accurate.
more common, probably.
But the joke, that the saying is, your Zestimate did not smell the 6 cats that lived in that house.
That is true. For those of you who've toured homes for sale, you know what Tigo's talking about. Okay, Tigo, I want to talk about this really briefly. So recently, we took out a new loan, and our mail was just inundated with all these official
Wait,
looking
hold on a second.
letters.
Now, you told me this was something I didn't know about. I thought you were just talking about the mail. I didn't know about the loan. Tell me about this loan.
We took out a home equity line of credit a couple months ago.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I did know about that one.
Remember?
Yeah, I do remember
That
now.
way we have money to buy cash sale houses.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I think anybody that has equity should get a HELOC as long as they're responsible with their finances. You don't want to abuse it, and don't use it like a ATM machine.
Well, there's no interest or anything if you just have it open. It's
Right,
just available.
right.
So anyway, we were inundated with mail that looked very official, and I grabbed a few of them before I throw them away. And it looks so official. This one, RE, primary residential mortgage, where we had gotten something from that wasn't where we got our home
Yeah,
equity
that wasn't
line.
home that was
Wasn't even
yeah.
related.
That's
And
our primary residential. That's who we have our mortgage with.
and you open it, Venturi, we have been trying to reach you regarding a matter of importance as it relates to your mortgage. Please call. You're like, wow, okay, what's going on with my mortgage, right? It looks like it's from our lender. It's not. And then here's three more. These ones, I didn't really understand what they were until I started looking at them. But of course, right at the top, mortgage protection information, complete and return. Looks like we're supposed to do something. I mean, the very top of the letter is complete and return, and they're all different. They all say something. Complete and return, or important mortgage information, Tego Venturi, please complete and return. And it looks like it's insurance if you become unable to pay your mortgage. But this was just a sampling of them. So be careful. The other thing we see after you close on a property is you'll get something in the mail saying, get a copy of your deed, just pay $75 and we'll send you a copy. You need a copy of your deed. The title company gives you that. You don't need to get a copy of your deed.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of that. And I back to the HELOC, when I did do the HELOC, I did get a lot of stuff too. And I love Kirtland Federal Credit Union. They did a great job. They had great rates. And I mean, I know there's a lot of people that have good programs for HELOCs, but I got stuff that it looked like it was coming from them, but it wasn't. It was like this insurance. So yeah,
That lender, Kirtland Federal Credit
right.
Union, they've got it right on here.
Yeah.
They don't know the details probably when things get recorded at the county. They just know the big picture.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. No,
I
it's unfortunately, and that's
I want to talk about a great neighborhood. So last week we did the UNM North area. We did Altura Park, UNM North, kind of by the North Golf Course. We did Summit Park area. And so this week I want to talk about High Desert because we were on the west side last time too. So interesting. High Desert, as most of you know, is up at the end of Academy, Osuna, Spain, up in the foothills. It was a newer development about, shoot, I should have looked it up, 25 years ago, maybe now. By Albuquerque Academy had the land and they developed it and made High Desert. And what's great about High Desert is it has apartments, it has townhomes, it has more middle of the road homes.
Well, it's what they call true mixed use. I guess not 100%, because true mixed use would also have some commercial and office space and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
All the way up to luxury estate properties on large acres or
Yeah.
more. So High Desert, the range last year, right now there's 8 on the market, 8 homes on the market, averaging 300 a square foot. Average price is 978,000 of those 8 properties, ranging from 485,000 to 2,500,000 list price.
Well, that gives you a good idea of what
The range.
High Desert is like, right? Because you have a whole mix. I mean, there's some townhomes in there as well, right? And
Right.
there's
Yeah, for sure.
up to the big estate properties. Yeah.
Yeah, the average days on market for those houses that are still on the market is 110 days.
Mhm.
So, it's getting up there, 3 months, 3.5 months on market. There's 6 homes in pending right now. They were averaging $305 a square foot at the time they went pending. The average price of those is $711,000. And the days on market for those 6 was only 24 days. So it's what we say every week, right? The nice ones coming on the market get picked up, they get purchased right away. The rest take a little bit more time for the right buyer to come along.
Yeah.
Closed properties, 102 last year. They averaged $290 a square foot sale price, which was also 741,000 was the average sales price. The other thing that's interesting is they closed almost at 100% of list price, 99.35%. Several of the homes that closed in that 102 were sold for above list price, which means there was competition for them, or the person, if there was only one offer, they really wanted to get it off the table, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The price range of the closed last year ranged from 330,000 to 2.375 million.
Wow.
So there we go.
Yeah.
Big mix, but a lot of people love high desert. There's nice trails throughout the community as well as right up into the foothills in the mountain. So there's high desert.
Yeah, it's a special place, special community. We don't have a lot of those in the Albuquerque area quite like that. That was one of the last real big master plan communities that were built in the Albuquerque area.
Yep.
We haven't seen many like that in a long time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the
So
closest thing we have recently would be Los Diamantes in Rio Rancho. You know, a little more master plan, but not really master plan. Really, it's just a big neighborhood with a lot of single family homes.
right. Well, we have Muir Haven,
Oh, that's true. I
but
forgot about that.
they don't
Yeah,
have the apartments, but they have the active adult Del Webb.
that's right.
And then on the other side of the road is just regular neighborhood community that's not 55 plus.
I
Still not like a master plan like High Desert or Mariposa, where Mariposa out in Northwest Rio Rancho has a variety of different neighborhoods and different price points and different size
Yeah,
lots.
which coincidentally, Mariposas was developed by the same people that developed
High Desert.
High Desert.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Just one last thing before we wrap up this week, Tracy. I've been watching this new data set that I got. I know we're going to talk data. I've been, I've been looking at this, and what I look at is what of the homes that are in the pending right now, like under contract in the Albuquerque area right now. How do those prices compare to what they were a year ago? Because this gives us an idea of like, all right, are home prices going up? Are they falling based on what the pending price is? And so when I looked at it just now, I looked at 90 days right now, an average for the last 90 days versus the same, last 90 days a year ago. And price per square foot for homes under contract is up 5.5%, and median price is up about 7%. So, at least at this point, it does look like, I mean, this is a pretty good crystal ball into the future of home prices. Over the next few months here, we are going to still continue to see year over year price appreciation in the Albuquerque area, which, of course, not surprised about. It's much more moderate though than we've seen in a while, which is really good. I mean, well, last year it was pretty moderate. We're going to end somewhere around 4% for 2024. So
Yep. So
just wanted to give
Tego,
that crystal ball look.
I want to change the topic completely
Okay.
because we do this every year and I talk about football. We're getting down to it, right? I'm really sorry that your Lions lost last weekend. I know you're a Detroit boy.
I was so
You
sad.
grew up in Detroit. I know I've been a Chiefs fan for several years now, and they're still in it to win it. This weekend will be fun, and then I've got my jersey. So when the Chiefs go and win the Super Bowl, I'll be wearing my jersey.
I'm going to still wear my Lions jersey and my Lions hat, and yeah,
Yeah, I know.
that was heartbreaking for me.
Yeah, I know.
And it
And
was the same last year. It was heartbreaking last year too. So I mean, but not as heartbreaking as your brother, who's a Vikings fan, who
yeah,
is he's like, every year I get disappointed by the Vikings. So
yeah.
yeah,
But there's some grace, saving grace in the Washington. What is their team name?
Commanders.
Commanders. I always want to say Generals. Is that basketball or is there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
the Commanders, because they've had a hard row of it too, so they're in it, and there's a lot of people rooting for the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
So
They're definitely the underdog, and it's always fun to see a team like that, kind of an upstart new quarterback come in. It's pretty cool.
yeah. So one of the things that relates to football and real estate is we know a lot of people that are planning the parties at their house to watch Super Bowl. A lot of TVs being purchased every January, early February for that. But a lot of people have the space in their homes for great football watching and inviting all their friends over. So if you're looking for a place where next year because you won't probably be in it this year in time. You're looking for a place where you can really entertain and have your friends over and watch your big game, give us a call. We'd be happy to help you find that great place. And you can reach us at 448-8888. We have a great team of realtors that help you with either buying or selling or both. We have that going on right now with 2 clients where they're selling and buying. So we'd be honored to assist you and have our great team go to work and provide just outstanding service to you in your home transaction.
Thanks, Tracy. Great. Another show in the books. If you got any questions about real estate, reach out to us. Have a great weekend. Take care.